Quick one for anyone who has any intention in competing in powerlifting. The rules of powerlifting and how a competition plays out is completely different to what you normally do in a gym. So trying to compare your gym lifts to your competition lifts is a recipe for disaster. The key when it comes to lifting in competition is to always expect very little of yourself, purely because the rules have changed so much. So let's say, for example, with the squats. With the squats, what has to happen is you don't have your own warm-up schedule. You have a start time, and you're in with a pool of 5 to 12 other lifters. That pool is called a flight. Inside of the flight, you'll go based off of where your squat number is. So like whatever your opening attempt is, your first attempt. Generally speaking, you want to have that first attempt as something you could do for at least 3 reps on any day of the week. As in, that's like you wake up sick and with the flu and your partner left you and your dog died and all of a sudden you've no money left in the entire world. You still need to be able to smash that weight. So it needs to be something super simple. Especially in your first competition when you're still getting a feel for what's going on. So with the squat, it needs to be like probably lower than you expect. Don't expect to PR on your first attempt. Hell, don't even try to PR on your second attempt. If you can match your in-gym PR on your second attempt and go for an all-time PR on your third attempt, that's awesome. The thing to remember when going for PRs like that in the squat is, like I said in the week 8 video for you guys, you need to make sure you're picking something relative to where you're at. So if your squat's 50 kilos, 52.5 would be a 5% PR, which would be huge. So that's squatting. When it comes to bench pressing, or before we move on, with the squat, you've got commands to worry about as well. So what's going to happen is you'll be under the bar, you'll have to walk backwards with it, set your position and set your feet. The head judge or the head referee will then say squat. He'll give you like a down command with your hand. You'll squat down to wherever you think is below parallel. Once you've done that, you stand back up and you stand there motionless waiting. When you show display or when you display control over the bar, which takes anything from half a second to 2 seconds, maybe more depending on the referee, you'll get a rack command. When that happens, you're allowed to walk back into the rack with the bar. If you move your feet or fall over at any point during the start and the rack, you'll miss the lift, you'll be red lighted, even if everything else is perfect. So competition lifting is a lot more controlled. Similarly for bench pressing, depending on which federation you're lifting in, when you take the bar out to arm's length at the start, you can get a lift off from somebody as well. You've got to hold it there motionless with straight arms. The referee will say start or begin or whatever, or maybe even give you a clap, but he'll say start. When the bar comes down to your chest, it needs to stay motionless on your chest until the referee is happy that that's happened. That means you can't bounce it and you can't heave it. So generally speaking, in most competitions, that'll be half a second to 2 seconds, depending on the judge. And the easiest way to gauge it is to have a look at what's happened beforehand. So for example, look at the lifters before you in the flight. What sort of pause have they had to have? So like as a visual example, here's what may happen. Imagine my hand is the bar and my other hand is my chest. So the referee is given the start command. I've brought it down. I'm going to show you how long a pause usually lasts. Press. Okay, so obviously it's not like a bang bang. It's not a touch and go. It's not a bounce and heave. It's just it's a dedicated stop. So what you're looking for is motionless and under control. So press. That's usually what you're looking for time-wise. But again, that means you don't know what the fuck's going on if you haven't lifted in a competition before. And it means you're going to suffer quite badly versus your gym lifts, because most people do their gym lifts in a touch-and-go style. The better you get at touching or at paused bench pressing, the stronger you'll become at it. But if you haven't practiced it that way, when it comes to competition, it'll screw you up. As a general rule, it'll knock 5 to 10% off of your bench press the first time you try it in competition. That means you need to have something that you can do easily for a triple, maybe even 5 reps, to be safe and confident of it as an opener. So like let's say for example, I'm shooting this just after Leanne posted her video. That 50 kilos, it looked comfortable, it touched, it got smashed. She looked like she'd do it for maybe 3 to 5 reps. That's probably still too heavy to open up with in competition, just because there's an element of uncertainty there. You're not quite sure you've brought it down and paused it long enough. You can't guarantee me you'll bring it down, hold it there, and still be able to press it. So with like Leanne's case, where the 50 kilos look good, I'd probably say look at 42 to 45 kilos as an opener. verging definitely on the side of caution. There's two reasons for that. Number one, coming off of the back of your heavy squats, what you'll experience is a lot of shoulder fatigue, a lot of upper back fatigue, and just a lot of general CNS fatigue. So that means, if you've never squatted, if you never tested your bench press immediately after squatting in the gym, again, you've no idea what's going to happen. You don't know how draining it's going to be. So if you can even get close to equaling your all-time bench press gym PR in competition, you've done amazingly. That means you need to step back, so like 45 kilos. The second thing you've got to consider with the gauging your attempts is that coming off of a squat, you're going to be amped up. Your nervous system's going to be on fire. Adrenaline levels are going to be high. You're going to be psyched up. You're going to be surging and ready to lift. That only lasts for about 45 to 90 minutes. That means you've got a very definite down period afterwards. So for example, if you get your squats done, if you're psyched and amped, and if you've got to go again and bench press within like a 90-minute window after squatting, you're probably going to start fatigued, tired, and with a big adrenaline dump. And that obviously affects strength levels. So it's not too unusual that you'll take the bar out and it'll feel completely, it'll feel like 20% heavier than it normally does. So again, depending on how quickly you go after your squat, you've got to adjust your attempts based off of that. That's why I'm saying, take maybe 10% off of your planned openers. For Leanne's example, that's like 42 to 45 kilos as a starting point. Then coming on to the two more things actually, sorry. Rules of the squat: you've got to keep your feet motionless during the squat. Get your hip crease below the top of your knee, stand back up again, display control, and then walk it back in, all the while following the referee's signals. On the bench press, in the IDFPA, your feet, your bum, and your head must remain in contact with the bench at all times. You've got to bring the bar down after the referee's start command, pause it on your chest until you're told to press it, and then once you've pressed it to arm's length and controlled it back there, you'll get a rack signal, and then you can replace it. Failing to do any of those things will result in a missed lift. There's 3 judges or 3 referees. You need at least 2 of them to agree you've done everything perfectly or within the rules in order to get it. So you need 2 white lights. You can get your lift with 2 white lights and 1 red. 3 white lights is they're all satisfied that you've done a good job. A light per judge. With the deadlift, then, when it comes to full meat powerlifting, people say the meat doesn't start until the bar hits the floor, and there's a pretty good reason for that. At the end of the day, a deadlift is really what separates the good lifters from the great lifters. So at the end of a competition, you're probably going to be fucked off and tired. You won't want to lift. You'll just be pissed in general that, maybe your day hasn't gone as you wanted. So what you've got to consider now is with your deadlift, you don't know where you're going to be at. Planning attempts coming into a competition is cool. That's why I always tell people to look for like something you can do for an easy triple as a planned starting point. That always adjusts on the fly, up or down, though, depending on how somebody feels. Depending on how the competition has gone, how hard you've had to grind and fight for your squat and your bench press, you may come into your deadlift and realize you have no energy left, or you may come in feeling amazing. So assuming you come in with no energy left, you pull your numbers back and you make sure you're happy on your opener. The single worst thing you can do in any of these things is to miss your opening or your second attempt. So if you miss your first squat or your first bench press, or even worse, you miss your second attempt on each, you go into that third attempt shitting yourself. In a full meet competition, so when you're doing squat, bench, and deadlift 4 total, if you miss all 3 of your lifts in any one discipline, so if you miss all 3 of your lifts in any one discipline, that's you disqualified from the competition. Okay, so you might have gone 3 for 3 on your squat, 3 for 3 on your bench, missed all your deadlifts, you're out. Tough shit. Doesn't count. In a single lift competition like this being held in Cork this weekend, it doesn't matter if you miss all 3 in any one discipline. That just means you're out of that discipline. But in a full competition, you're looking to get 9 for 9 ideally. With the deadlift, you've got to have knee with the bench press and with the squat. You've got to make sure you've got a t-shirt covering your shoulders. I'm not sure off the top of my head what the rule is, but basically like a normal t-shirt will do. It's got to be cotton. It can't be like an Under Armour polyester style material. The reason for that is they want to make sure you don't transfer any infectious bloodborne diseases off your shoulders onto the bar or off your shoulders onto the bench. If you're a first-time lifter, you'll get away with lifting in a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. if you're in your second competition, or even, you know, if you're in your first and you're in this for the long haul, you need to wear a singlet, so a weightlifting singlet of some sort made of single ply material. When it comes to the squat, you're only allowed to wear wrist straps and a belt. When it comes to the bench press, you're only allowed to wear wrist wraps. I think you can wear a belt as well, but I'm not 100% sure on that. You're not allowed to wear elbow sleeves, and you're not allowed to wear knee sleeves or knee wraps if you're lifting in the raw division. On the deadlift, you've got to wear knee-high socks. Again, just below your knees, like a pair of sports socks or football socks, just to make sure, again, you don't transfer blood from your person to the bar, or vice versa, to protect against any bloodborne diseases. You're allowed to take your t-shirt off at that stage, because you're not, assuming you have a singlet on, of course, because you're not at risk of the bar coming in contact with your upper body. You're allowed to wear talc on your legs, so talcum powder, or baby powder. Whatever you do, don't get it on your hands. The purpose of talc is to increase slippiness, let's say reduce friction. It reduces friction and makes things smoother. That's why you put it on a baby after they've had their nappy changed. If you put a thing that's designed to reduce friction on your hands, whose job is to hold onto the bar, you are going to drop the bar. So don't get the talc on your hands, get somebody else to rub it in for you, or rub it in with the bottom of the bottle. So for example, you'd squirt it onto, like, let's say your shin, and then you'd rub it in with the bottom of the bottle. Obviously make sure you don't get it on your feet, because that may affect your stance as well. And just don't be a dickhead about it. You know, if you're going to use it, try and stay a little bit tidy with it. On your hands, you're obviously allowed to wear chalk, and you're allowed to wear a weightlifting belt. With the deadlift, the main rule, or the main judge rule, is you get set up to lift the bar, you stand up, the ref will be, as you approach the bar, the ref will stand with his hand up. There's no start command, there's no go command, you just get set up, you pull the bar. Once you've stood up and completed the lift to a degree you're happy with, stand there waiting for the referee, and the referee will say, down. Upon that point, you place the bar to the ground under control, ensuring your hands stay in contact with the bar the entire time on the way down. If you drop the bar, or if the bar bounces, no matter how good your deadlift was, tough shit, you're not getting it. So just be smart about it. You know, you've done the hard work, so hang on for the last couple of minutes. I think that's about it with the deadlift. Obviously, you can't ramp it up on your knees. You can't, you know, air hump the bar into submission. It's got to come up in one clean movement. Your knees are not allowed rebend on the way up. So whatever rate they open at, they have to not go back to a previous position. On any lift, like the squat, the bench press, or the deadlift, on the way up, the bar is allowed to become motionless before it continues its ascent. But if it becomes motionless, dips, and continues its ascent, you'll miss the lift. Okay, nobody cares if you fought your ass off for it. You've broken the rules, tough shit. So really what you need to go looking for is like a smooth movement all the way through, because a lot of the time what will happen with judging is that even if you hit a momentary pause, it can be perceived as a stop or a dip, and you may be at risk of not getting the lift. So if you can grind through, grind through. On your squats, if you miss the squat, stay with the bar. Like say for example you squat down and you stand up 3/4 of the way and you get smashed, don't just jump out forwards like a coward, because somebody's got to catch the bar. That's somebody's the spotters, and believe me, there's nothing more annoying than when you're standing behind somebody looking out for them and they just drop a bar and smash your forearms. It happened to me last year, and I nearly punched a guy in the back of the head afterwards, because, you know, if you miss a squat, like let's say you're squatting 80 kilos, if you miss an 80 kilo squat, you've probably put about 75 to 77.5 kilos worth of force into the bar. The actual assistance the spotters need to provide isn't that big, but if you jump out of the way, all of a sudden it happens at a whole new level, and injuries happen to the guys who are out spending their day looking after you. So don't be a douche. Same applies for bench press. You know, obviously be nice, be sound to your competitors. Powerlifting in Ireland is quite a niche sport. If you win a weight class, or if you win a medal, you know, you may have just shown up to the right competition on the right day. Compare yourself to a worldwide standard. Don't try and be the big fish in the small pond, because trust me, there's always somebody out there stronger than you, and there's always somebody out there who's warming up with your max. Powerlifting is an amazing sport. It's very inclusive. It's very enjoyable. And it's personally given me a lot, both physically, emotionally, and mentally. So, you know, there's just some really quick tips for your first competition. I shot this video completely on the fly because somebody asked a question about it, and I knew I couldn't possibly type out a response worthy of the topic. So that's why I'm a mess, and that's why the kitchen's a mess behind me. But look, you've just got 15 minutes on how to how to get ready for your first powerlifting competition. So look, may your squats be low and may your lights be white.